that you're solving.
So with those solar financing, do you do like inspections on the property?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it can be a benefit to you too, right? Like say you're the seller and you know all this. You can owner finance it to someone else and get the, $100K over what it's worth price. But you get it 30 years from now. So does that make sense?
When does I thought there was like the terms of the loan stipulated that if you sell the property, then the loan is paid like due in full. Like how are we avoiding that, or when does that occur? Does that make sense?
Due on sale clause.
Due on sale clause. There you go.
Well, yeah. So, but it's when you sell it, right? So like, if you don't sell it, you know.
I mean, effectively, owner financing is selling it, right?
Oh, you're saying with the bank?
Yeah.
So if it's paid off, there's no bank involved.
Okay. So we're talking mostly properties with. Yeah.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, if there is a loan, you still do it. It's a wrap, right? Mm-hmm. And there's this whole thing. We did a huge podcast on it.
Listen to the podcast.
No, not that. It's just it's this gray area. So it's a gray area. It's nothing illegal about it. But if you're the bank and I owe you money, right? And then I finance this to Alex. If I keep paying you, most likely, one, you're never going to know or care.
Yeah.
So that's the first answer, right? The second answer is if you do, find out about it and you get upset and you want to take action, then I just transfer the deed. You can literally just transfer the deed back and forth forever. There's nothing that prevents it. But it's a...
Oh, yeah, I remember talking to you about this with you and Alan.
Yeah, and you can do it with Alan so he can oversee it. But it's like 0.0001 that it ever happens as long as you make payment. I mean,
So as long as
you're talking about these guys own 10,000, 100,000, 500,000 loans. Like they don't care. They don't even know.
So the second question I have is as far as like risk and like mitigating that a little bit. So I remember it was like Dave Ramsey a long time ago was talking about like let's say I owner finance my property to you and then you stop paying your taxes for whatever reason. And then now you technically own the deed on this property, but then you're going bankrupt. Mm-hmm. So how does that work then? Like as far as like the risk that I'm taking on, it seems like the risk, it's benefit upside for you because you're purchasing of these things, but the risk for me is a little bit higher because I lost control.
Yeah. Okay. So a deed of trust, what it is I give you a deed of trust, meaning there's also a promissory note. Mm-hmm. You don't actually get the deed until you've paid it off.
Okay.
This is just a deed of trust.
Okay.
So as soon as you stop making payments, I get it back. Whenever you pay it off, that goes away and you release it completely.
So there's so as far as like the risk though, could you then tie it up or take collateral against it or something?
Well, that's what the deed of trust is.
Let's run through it a little bit. So let's say there is $200,000 house that you own and you're going to sell or finance to Matt. Let's say the mortgage payments are...
Let's do my actual house. So okay, so probably $400,000 right now, probably it's worth.
Okay.
I owe $250 on it.
But you're selling it to Matt for $4.
I was selling, say I sell it to him for $4.
So what's the mortgage payment Matt's going to pay every month?
Well, we currently are paying like $2,200, so I need to make at least that plus some probably.
Tell me a number.
Let's say
$2,400 monthly payments. It's a good deal. Matt should go buy it. All right, so let's say for whatever reason this is a good option for Matt. Say he doesn't have the best credit necessarily, but Matt works really hard. He has been saving his money for a long time. Maybe he doesn't have a Social Security number. Maybe he's got a TIN. And Matt has 80 grand, and he's able to put down 80 grand on this property.
What do you owe on it?
I think probably 220, 225. I think I missed one.
So Matt puts an 80K down payment on it. Mm-hmm. So this right here is going to be the seller's security. If Matt stops paying his mortgage month 5, and let's say he doesn't make it months 5 through 10, and finally he gets foreclosed on month 10, and this is foreclosure date, What's 2,400 times 5? It's what, like 20 grand?
12,000.
12,000. Okay, so you lost out on $12,000 worth of payments. So 80,000 minus 12,000 gives you 68,000. You already took the house back, and you just made 68,000 plus
12,000.
plus 12,000 of mortgage payments
Plus
that you did pay.
appreciation, plus the pay down on the loan.
Yeah, that's how I always, when I approach seller finances and convincing sellers to do it, it's simply if someone defaults, you get the house back.
Yeah, it's the same.
What's the reason not to do that? I mean, that almost seems like a no-brainer then. Like, why would I not take 80,000, 100,000, and then collect the interest on that? Why? I mean, what's the reason not to do that?
As a seller,
Yeah.
well, if you needed 400K minus your loan balance right now,
Okay. Just maybe I need the cash.
maybe you need the cash. Maybe you don't want to sell.
Yeah, you lose that on the appreciation, right? So we start getting it. You stop.
Okay. Yeah.
In this scenario, this is a real scenario, right? Like you actually did you say you are considering selling it? Okay. So why do you want to sell it?
We just need the cash to purchase the next house.
Okay. How much cash do you think you might need?
I don't know. We have a couple things in the air. I mean, between 50 and 100.
Okay. So you really need 50. You don't need 200, which is there.
Right.
So this is how I could try to work it. Is like, hey, like I'll pay you $450 for this.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you $50K, but I'll take over the existing mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get 50 right now. You get you get way over what it's worth. So you'll get the difference later. But I get to tap into 2,200.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that it's cash flowing $300 a month.
This is the other rental. This is my first primary.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think this would rent for? Do you think it would rent for more?
It'd be close. It'd be right in that.
Break even?
100. Yeah,
Yeah.
it might break even.
And that's
maybe 100.
That's with taxes and insurance?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not
That's with
bad.
the homestead too. That's the only thing is the homestead is I think keeping it
Right.
taxes lower.
Right. So it's just do you see how I could start working I could maybe even work a deal that it's going to be a win-win.
Yeah.
That's why I'm giving little trade-offs here and there.
And you could even do where you have 50%, I could retain the other 50%.
Yeah,
Okay.
totally. So that's the thing is that's why it's so important to understand this and to not just think, 400 is what you need. Maybe you only need 50.
Mm-hmm.
So we got other things to talk about that could be beneficial for you and the investor. And if you're approaching that as yourself as an investor, think how many more deals you can get done if you're not just shut down I can't pay 400.
Okay.
You following me?
So when you do the 50/50, 10 years, when you sell it, then you walk away 50%.
50-50, yeah. If there's foundation that's 20 grand, we got to both put in 10. Like you're just a true partner.
it's all negotiable. You could structure it any way you want to, and that would be something you and your partner come up with. And that will bring us to, unless y'all want to keep talking about seller finance, there's so many other ways to buy investment properties without credit and without capital, and one way is partnering with somebody.
And I just want to throw out it's just so important to understand all this. If you're representing a client and everything's negotiable. It's all, you can be super flexible and be an entrepreneur. So you're my client, right? And you got $10 million and I could work a deal where not only do I put my 3% commission towards every property that you buy, but I also get credit for 6%. So you double your money right there, and you get to invest, and you're now aligned with an investor. You see what I'm saying? Hey, Nishay, every deal we do, I want to put all my capital in this with you, but I also want you to give me, 10K credit or whatever it is. But I'm going to be out there finding deals for you. I'm going to be hustling. So you can just build a whole business just on that, and you've got 15% ownership of 100 deals.
We had one
That
guy,
could be one client, of 10.
We had one guy approach us, and we didn't. Looking back, I feel like we didn't take advantage of this the way that we should have. But we had one guy who was raising capital from accredited investors, and he said, I forget the deal proposal exactly.
Is this Eric?
But he basically said, you guys go out and find deals that meet our criteria, you get paid your commission, and you get like 5 to 10% ownership in the deal or something. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it was just a different time of the market, so it's a lot harder to do that. Now, yeah, we should follow back up with it.
Yeah. But I mean, that had nothing to do with our credit, had nothing to do with us having capital, but it started with, the deal. And so one way that we just discussed is seller finance. Another way to do it is partner with somebody. Another way to do it is what Ryan mentioned. What did you say your deal is, where you get some share in the upside later?
So I manage her properties, and if I find the deal, so it's just a normal commission, no problem issue there. But when we go to sell it in 3 to 5 years, I get 10% of the cut plus the commission.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is like we're in a unique position in what we do. Especially if we're putting in the work, we have the value. Everybody else wants it. So you can work these deals like that, and they're like, yeah, no problem, right? I'll pay you later. And like, there's a tremendous amount of value that can come from that. We just Austin there, who works with us, he bought a deal from Chris Sweeney, and he rented it out to a tenant, and then he sold it to someone else, and he just convinced him. It was a guy that's in tech, and he's like, hey, you make $200K a year. You need some real estate write-offs. You can show that this property is losing money every month, and you got a deal done that way.
The deal. Find an opportunity, solving some sort of problem for somebody, leads to some sort of deal you're going to get or find, and then from there you figure out how to get the deal done.
Yeah, and you got to. All we talk about is like the goal is to maximize your time. If you're making an offer, how do you figure out how to get value out of that in 10 different ways, right? And so that's the whole concept of all of this stuff. And then just to think, you got to just think of like playing chess or whatever it is. And as you're doing these deals, talk about it, share it on social media, promote it, and you find other people that want to do deals like that. And so that one thing leads to 15 different values that you get.
What are some ways y'all think you could, if you don't have capital, if you don't have credit, what are some ways you think you could find a deal and go partner with somebody? Any thoughts?
I mean, is that...
Well, just like let's say I have no money and I got no credit, but I know Matt's got both of those things. Let's say Matt does work in tech and he works, 80 hours a week, and he on the weekends, he takes his boat out and takes his family to the lake and stuff, and he's got no time to search for deals, but I've got all the time in the world to find deals. So how could I approach Matt and bring some deals and both of us buy these together?
Yes, find the right deals.
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, just like what I said, right? What I said earlier about using your commission and doubling it. Because once you understand this and then you get the knowledge about it, capital and credit being something that holds you back, once you really get it, that's just an excuse. But if you don't understand it, that's different. But that's not an actual, like, we do this. We don't have all the money in the world. We always figure it out. I mean, if you were to think to yourself, if I went and talked to 50 people today, just business owner, Google doctors, call them, right? And you said, if I found a deal, would you invest in it? Like, probably pretty easily you'd find 5 people just in one day that would say yes. So that totally takes that out.
Solving problems.